They say every era has its monster. London had Jack the Ripper. His name became a shadow that hung over the city forever. But monsters are timeless. They are like natural disasters, unpredictable and devastating. In the last 20 years of the Soviet Union alone, dozens of these predators emerged from the cracks. There was the Lady in Red killer in Moscow, the vampire of Kazakhstan, and the infamous Chikatilo who shocked the world. You can't predict when the next Jack will be born. You can't stop him. You can only pray he doesn't appear in your neighborhood. But today I want to tell you about a nightmare that haunted the Moscow region for years. A story of missed clues, a fatal mistake, and a man who lived a double life. It all started back in 1984 at a Soviet summer camp, what we called a pioneer camp. A young boy named Andrei was sitting by the fence, just minding his own business. Moments later, he was gone. He was found later, bound and lifeless. But here's the strange part. There were almost no marks on his body, except for a single groove on his neck. No one knew then that this was just the beginning. The killer had made his debut, and he hadn't made a single mistake. 2 years later, in the spring of '86, another boy, also named Andrei, vanished while riding his bike near a village called Kotor. When his father found him the next morning, the scene was horrific. The boy had been bound and subjected to unspeakable brutality. The killer had operated with terrifying precision, leaving behind a scene that suggested he knew anatomy. But again, the police hit a wall. Every suspect had a solid alibi. That summer, thousands of kids flooded into the camps, unaware that a predator was watching. He would stand at the edge of the tree line studying them. Nobody paid attention to the quiet man in the distance. Then, in June, a 12-year-old boy disappeared. He was found days later in the forest. The level of violence had escalated drastically. The killer had performed grotesque surgical procedures on the victim, even removing the head and discarding it later. It was clear a maniac was operating in the Moscow suburbs, someone insane, yet calm and calculating. Witnesses later recalled seeing a strange man near the crime scene poking at a tree with a knife, but no one could describe his face. And then the investigation took a wrong turn that would cost lives. A friend of one of the victims, maybe traumatized or maybe just imagining things, told police he saw a man with a tattoo on his arm. He said it was a snake and the word Fisher. The police latched onto this. They drew sketches, they hunted for anyone named Fisher or anyone with that nickname. They checked every single Fisher in the Soviet Union. It was a massive dragnet, but it was a complete waste of time. While the police chased a phantom named Fisher, the real killer was watching, laughing, and evolving. Panic gripped Moscow. Parents were terrified. Mothers would secretly pray to God, even though religion was suppressed back then, begging for their children's safety. Everyone feared the Fisher, not knowing the name was a myth. Years passed. Boys continued to vanish. In '89, 10-year-old Serge went missing. Then another surgeon in '91. The killer was getting smarter, leaving no traces, picking victims when the country was in chaos during the political coup. The police finally noticed a pattern. The bodies were all found within a specific triangle in the Moscow region. The killer was local. He was someone who knew the roads, someone who had a vehicle, and someone who knew how to handle flesh and bone, likely with a medical or veterinary background. They checked hospitals, they checked meat processing plants, and for the first time, they looked at the Moscow stud farm number 1. They were looking for a man who worked with horses, someone strong, someone with access to industrial salt which was found on the bodies. But the killer, Sergey Golovkin, slipped through the cracks because he had a Moscow residency permit, not a local one. He was right there, hiding in plain sight. The breakthrough came only after a horrific discovery. 3 bodies were found together. The boys had been tortured, but this time the killer got sloppy from overconfidence. Near the bodies, investigators found a makeshift marker and a buried bottle with a note inside. It was a game to him. But the net was closing in. The investigation led back to the stud farm. They focused on Sergey Golovkin. He was a quiet man, an award-winning employee who loved horses more than people. He had a car, a garage, and fit the profile perfectly. When they arrested him, he didn't fight. He didn't deny it. He took the lead investigator to the burial sites. The inner tapes are chilling. Golovkin spoke about his crimes with the monotone calmness of someone reading a grocery list. He described how he lured the boys into his garage, his bunker, promising them cigarettes or a look at imported goods. He described the torture not with anger, but with curiosity. He saw himself as a scientist of pain. He wanted to know what victims felt during World War II interrogations. He admitted to experimenting on them. He had a God complex, deciding who lived and who died, deriving pleasure from their absolute helplessness. The locals were so enraged they burned his garage to the ground. Today, it's just a trash pit, but the memory haunts the village. Golovkin was sentenced to death. While on death row, he tried to play the victim. He claimed he was bullied as a child, that he just wanted to be normal. He even cracked jokes with the investigators. When asked to demonstrate a torture device, he smirked and told the officer, "Bring your son in, and I'll show you." He wanted to live. He even tried to commit suicide to escape the firing squad, but failed. Sergey Golovkin, the man who terrorized a generation, was executed, taking his darkest fantasies to the grave. But for those who lived through the era of TheFisher, the fear never really went away.